For as long as humans have looked at the ruins of the ancient world, one question has haunted our imagination. How did people with no engines, no machines, and no modern technology build structures that still tower over us today? Because think about it. If construction crews vanished tomorrow, we couldn't rebuild the Great Pyramid of Giza with the ease people think we could. We couldn't carve a city into a mountain like Petra. We couldn't walk multi-ton statues across an island like the people of Rapa Nui. We probably couldn't even recreate some of the temples hidden deep in the jungles of South America. Yet thousands of years ago, ordinary people, farmers, stonecutters, engineers, mathematicians, labourers, somehow achieved what should have been impossible. So today, we're going to break open the real story. Not the myths, not the alien theories, but the actual engineering that let ancient civilizations reshape the Earth itself. Techniques that were brilliant, techniques that were efficient, techniques that we've only recently begun to understand. Because the ancient world wasn't primitive, it was powerful. And this is how they proved it. Let's start with the one monument almost everyone recognizes, the Great Pyramid of Giza, a masterpiece of construction built around 4,500 years ago using more than 2 million stone blocks. Some the size of cars, some the size of trucks, some weighing up to 80 tons. And here's the part most people never learn. These stones weren't just dropped in place. They were arranged with mathematical precision. The sides of the pyramid aligned to true north with an accuracy of 3/60ths of a degree, better than some modern smartphones. So how did the Egyptians pull it off? Not with magic, not with alien tractor beams, but with something far more impressive, an unbroken chain of organization, skill, and pure human determination. The stones were cut in quarries using copper chisels, wooden mallets, and stone hammers made of dolerite, one of the hardest rocks in the world. Workers used sand as an abrasive, pouring it into cracks and grinding it back and forth to slowly slice through stone. Cutting the blocks took massive teams. But moving the blocks? That was its own challenge. The Egyptians used wooden sledges dragged across sand that they watered to reduce friction. This isn't a guess. We literally have paintings showing workers pouring water in front of sleds. With wet sand, the force needed to move a stone could be cut by almost half. During the flooding of the Nile, they dug temporary canals and floated huge blocks on barges straight to the construction site. Once there, teams of workers dragged them up long ramps, straight ramps, zigzag ramps, spiral ramps, depending on the stage of construction. And behind every step was a massive workforce. Not slaves, as old Hollywood films suggest, but paid workers, skilled labourers, foremen, and teams of elite stone specialists. Egypt built the pyramid the same way modern mega-projects get built, with smart planning, skilled people, and relentless discipline. But Egypt didn't stop with pyramids. They also mastered the art of raising obelisks, giant single-piece stone towers that reached up to 100 feet in height and weighed more than 400 tons. To carve them, workers hammered trenches into bedrock, then used fire and water cracking. They heated the stone with fire, then poured cold water on it, creating small fractures that could be chipped away. Bit by bit, an obelisk was freed from the earth. Transporting it required enormous sledges, teams of workers, and a specially built barge with a hollowed center to cradle the stone. To stand the obelisk upright, they dug a long, sloping pit, slid the stone in horizontally, then removed sand underneath it so it slowly rotated into a vertical position. Simple, brilliant, and efficient. But Egypt wasn't the only ancient civilization building the impossible. Let's head north, to a windswept plain in Britain where a circle of giant stones still defies our understanding. Stonehenge, a monument that took over 1,500 years to complete. A structure using stones that weigh between 4 and 25 tons. And some of those stones were brought from more than 100 miles away. How? Well, ancient engineers used wooden rollers, sledges, rafts, and a surprising amount of good old teamwork. They even built giant wooden tripods to help lift stones using ropes and counterweights. And here's the detail that blows people's minds. The stones fit together using woodworking joints, mortise and tenon pegs, carved directly into the rock. This wasn't a random stone pile. It was a massive engineered structure with architectural precision. Now let's cross an ocean. to a place that truly challenges everything we think about ancient engineering. South America, the land of the Incas. High in the Andes Mountains, far above the clouds, stands Machu Picchu, an entire stone city built with such perfect craftsmanship that the stones fit so tightly you can't slip a razor blade between them. They achieved this without iron tools, without wheels, without animals to drag loads, and without writing. So how did they do it? The key was ashlar masonry, where stones are shaped individually using hammerstones and sand grinding. Each block was carved to lock into the next, like a puzzle that fits in 3 dimensions. This made walls incredibly strong, strong enough to survive earthquakes that routinely wipe out modern buildings. When an earthquake hits, the stones shake, settle, and lock themselves tighter. It's engineering that seems futuristic, but it's more than 600 years old. And the Inca weren't alone. South America is filled with impossible-feeling constructions. Take Sacsayhuaman, massive zigzag walls built with stones up to 1 to 25 tons. The angles are so tight they look laser-cut. The stones were moved using ramps and dragged up slopes using human strength and wooden rollers. Or look at Tiwanaku in Bolivia, a city built before the Inca. Some of the stone blocks used there weigh over 100 tons and were transported more than 50 miles. They used llamas? No. They used wheeled carts? No. The wheel barely existed in the region. They used sledges, ropes, and massive teams of workers who understood leverage, physics, and teamwork better than we assume. And speaking of teamwork, let's jump to the jungles of Central America. Places like Tikal, Chichen Itza, and Teotihuacan once held some of the largest structures in the entire ancient world. The Maya built enormous stepped pyramids using limestone blocks carved with stone tools. They used every trick in the engineer's handbook: ramps, levers, pulleys, and the controlled breaking of stone using heat. At Teotihuacan, the builders made walls using millions of tons of stone and created plazas aligned with astronomical precision. The Avenue of the Dead and Pyramid of the Sun are aligned with sunsets and star paths. These cultures were not guessing. They were calculating. Let's move to another place where ancient engineering reached unbelievable levels. The island now known as Rapa Nui, Easter Island. The people here carved giant stone statues called Moai, some weighing more than 80 tons. And the question always comes up: how did they move them? Not with logs, not with animals, and not with sledges. The most accurate method, confirmed by archaeological experiments, is beautifully simple. They walked the statues. Teams on each side pulled with ropes, rocking the statue left and right, inching it forward like a fridge being wiggled across a floor. It looked like magic, but it was just physics and coordination. In fact, the local legends say the statues walked, and that is almost literally true. Now let's head into the desert, to the ancient city of Petra in modern-day Jordan. Petra wasn't built by stacking stones, it was built by carving them out of a cliff face. Workers removed stone from top to bottom, sculpting massive temples, tombs, and treasury buildings with astonishing detail. This technique ensured the rock wouldn't collapse under its own weight. They carved columns, rooms, staircases, and entire facades with hand tools. Imagine a skyscraper built by using chisels on the side of a mountain. That was Petra. Now, shift to Asia. China's Great Wall is one of the most ambitious construction projects in human history. It stretches across deserts, forests, and mountain ridges for thousands of miles. Some sections used stone and brick, but the real secret was a material called rammed earth. Workers poured layers of soil, gravel, clay, and sand between wooden frames, then pounded them with heavy rammers until they became a material almost as hard as cement. Rammed earth walls from 2,000 years ago are still standing today. And when dynasties expanded, they added stone fortresses, lookout towers, and battlements using millions of bricks fired in giant kilns. The wall wasn't one structure built by one emperor. It was the work of countless communities over centuries. But let's zoom out for a moment. There's a pattern we keep seeing. A truth that ties every one of these accomplishments together. Ancient builders didn't rely on one miracle trick. They didn't need superhuman strength. They didn't need technology we can't understand. They relied on teamwork, organisation, generations of knowledge, trial and error, and an understanding of physics that matched anything in modern textbooks. They used ramps to move heavy stuff. They used levers to lift it. They used sand, water, wood, rope, fire, and stone. They used ingenuity instead of machines. But there's something else, something most people never hear about. The ancient world ran like a machine. To build a pyramid or a temple required more than stonecutters. It required entire towns dedicated to the project. Bakers, potters, doctors, surveyors, logistics managers, architects, engineers, record keepers, artists, carpenters, rope makers, tool sharpeners, transport works. Construction sites had medical tents, kitchens, storage facilities, water reserves, and sleeping quarters. This wasn't chaos. It was organised, structured and planned, just like modern mega construction projects. And that's the point. When you strip away the myths, the conspiracy theories, and the supernatural explanations, what remains is actually more incredible. Ancient civilizations figured out how to do astounding things with the tools they had. Not because they were advanced in the way we think of high technology, but because they were brilliant in the way humans have always been brilliant. They solved problems. They tested ideas. They refined techniques generation after generation. And when they wanted something badly enough, a temple, a city, a tomb, a monument, a symbol, they didn't say can't. They said how. And then they answered that question with invention, sweat, and centuries of determination. So the next time you look at a pyramid or a stone circle or a temple carved into a mountainside, don't picture aliens or giants. Picture thousands of people, your ancestors, my ancestors, humanity's ancestors, working day after day with nothing but their hands, their minds, and a vision of something so big it would last forever. The real miracle of ancient engineering isn't the stone, it's the people who moved it. If you liked this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It supports the channel more than you know.